Well, you know,
I think God and Moses both just have enormous respect for each other.
White Gladiator has that same right spirit.
Look, the judges are gone. Even the Egyptian judge is impressed.
Until recently, you claimed that the Earth revolved around the sun.
Hello and welcome to History Bites. I'm Rick Green. Canada and the U.S. share the world's longest undefended border. But 200 years ago, things weren't so buddy-buddy. Canada was a British colony, but America had declared independence. Unfortunately, it was still being treated like a British colony. British interference with American ships was a major sore point. So in 1812, America declared war against Britain by way of Canada. After 2 years of fighting back and forth, the war was turning ugly. British troops stormed Washington and burned the White House and the Capitol buildings before moving on. With information traveling at the speed of sail, British commanders in England had a hard time keeping up with events. If only they'd had television in 1812. That way they could have watched the battle for North America. Provided, of course, they won the battle for the remote.
After a stunning attack on America, the president launches a new offensive in the war on tyranny-ism.
America is a nation at war. A war we keep losing. Once it was a war we fought in Canada, and now we've been pushed back. In August, enemies of American freedom committed yet another act of war against our country. But their cowardly burning of Washington as revenge for us burning York and Newark will not go unpunished. We will make war against Britain and its axis of evil, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, by attacking its colony, Canada.
How long before Canada becomes U.S., eh? From George Washington's old house, Paul Pegleg Pagala and Annie Colden.
Tonight, new war, same old enemy. Tyranny and the tyrannyists. In the past few months, this nation has been shaken by scenes of violence, tragedy, and wanton destruction after the tragic events of August 24th, when a few cowardly British fanatics laid waste to the heart of Washington. The American people are united as never before. After 2 years of defeats, America is finally flexing its muscles.
The attack on Washington is one more example of the gaping holes in our national security. Perhaps the people are united, but our military is still losing battle after battle. The question remains, how did this attack at our heartland succeed? And when will America show some backbone and strike back at tyranny?
Americans have backbone. Have you seen the volunteer workers in Washington?
My point is that tragic as the events of 8/24 were, our real problem in this country isn't the destruction in Washington.
Well, you tell that to the men
The problem
and women who lost
is that
there.
America is losing this war on tyranny. We've lost bigger battles than Washington, even when we outnumber the tyrannists. We lose. And I shouldn't need to remind you that this war didn't start with the British attacking our cities. It started with the British sneaking aboard our ships with weapons. Thank you very much.
Capturing American crews, taking over from the ships in mid-courses, forcing our seamen to serve in the British Navy. It's like slavery, with pay and rum.
Looking for a challenge and regular meals? Try the British Navy. Our naval press gangs are ready, willing, and able to abduct you in the street and force you into years of service aboard His Majesty's ships. Want to know more? Just turn your back on our recruiting representatives, or join the American Navy and be captured and forced into the British Navy. So how'd it go?
Jerry, joining the militia was the smartest thing I ever did.
Why's that?
This hat is gonna help me get with that Canadian girl. I'm telling you, it's this hat. She's hot for this hat.
Hot for the hat?
The three corners. The tricorn. It does something to the ladies.
What?
I'm gonna be giving it to Canada on the battlefield and in the bedroom. She was hanging on every word. Wanting to know what we do in the militia?
Really?
What we're gonna do next?
Uh-huh.
It's too bad she had to run off like that. Luckily, she gave me a name.
What is it?
Laura Secord.
that we Americans have to start taking an interest in world politics.
We
These
do.
British, no,
We
we
do.
don't. We don't. Look at these British have established a worldwide network of tyranny, an empire. Just look at recent events like the seizure of the Cape Colony, and look at what they did to France. The French leader Napoleon was defeated, and we didn't lift a finger.
And why should we? Who wants to get sucked into ancient ethnic conflicts in the old world? France against England. It goes back centuries.
Sure, the Saxons and
Even
the Normans,
the British
I know.
fight against their own tribes. The Scottish hate the English. The Irish hate the English, and the Americans don't care.
Well, maybe that's the problem. This European war is now America's war.
And the problem is that we have these fanatical soldiers working for foreign dictators coming into this country across our porous borders and destroying buildings and property right here on American soil that we took fair and square from the Indians.
200 years before NAFTA, goods and people passed freely across the Canada-US border. Many Americans settled in Canada and vice versa. So the War of 1812 forced some folks to fight their friends and neighbors. No wonder many Canadians and Americans wanted peace. But their voices were drowned out by the shouting and shooting of those who wanted war.
30 years ago, we had a war.
Sure, the Revolutionary War.
Revolutionary War, the War of Independence, Operation Bitey Eagle, call it what you will, where we took a stand for democracy.
Yes, and we defeated King George and drove his forces from America.
But then we stopped. We stopped short. We had a chance to sort things out for good, and we blew
No,
it.
you're not saying. We should have taken the Revolutionary War into Canada in 1776.
No, not Canada.
No, because that was never the mandate of that conflict.
No,
The
that's not what I'm
Declaration
saying.
of Independence
Not
was very
Canada,
clear.
all the way to London.
London. We didn't have
And
the ships.
ousted King George, because until Britain has true democracy, this world and our way of life will never be safe.
Learn new skills, repairing rope, spreading tar, fixing sails, feeding sharks.
I learned self-respect and how to rob Dutch ships.
Take pride in your individuality.
No fancy uniform. I wore the clothes I was abducted in.
With a ripe melon. Many of the farmers join the militia and are away fighting, but those who leave the militia and come back to harvest their crops are branded deserters and shot on sight. That's why I decided to help the war effort by harvesting their crops so they don't go to waste. This corn will make a wonderful cornbread, or I may feed it to my hogs for extra fat into my bacon. And do leave a couple of cobs in the field. That way, if the farmers sneak back home, they'll think those rotten Canadians stole their crops. It's another wonderful way of scapegoating the Canadians, so our farmers fight even harder for my freedom. Creating anti-Canadian sentiment, it's a war thing.
Look, we have had our problems with the British, but if we pursued negotiation, peaceful means, rather than saying a
Secretary
gunship
Monroe
over...
forgets that the American government has tried to resolve the issue through peaceful means. We had the Embargo Act of 1807, waste of quills and ink.
Sure, and the Non-Intercourse Act of 1809.
Paul here, of course, very familiar with the Act of Non-Intercourse.
There's no need to get resentful, Annie. You're just not my
Point
type.
is, the British
That's it.
are laughing at us.
Our
They're treating
generals-
us like America was some second-rate minor world power that they can just push around at will.
But we are a second-rate power.
Still got that red coat in your closet.
No, not at all.
Paul.
Not at all.
Army
No, I don't.
turncoat.
If I can get
You
away
won't
with
be
the
happy
Army-
until the Cockney
Well, how will you know when I'll be happy?
force us to wear British crowns and pray to Buckingham Palace.
He was a turncoat who sold out his country and his flag. But his collection of greatest hits will have you pledging allegiance.
I knew a man, Benedict, and he sold secrets, yes, to the enemy. A general dissatisfied with army life and short on money. He'd stab your back, yeah. I sure miss that guy. Mr. Benedict Arnold. Thank the Lord for the nighttime, so I can run till I drop. I'm deserting the army to go harvest my crops. I am my spy with my little eye. Something top secret and classified.
And what we've seen after months of pressure from these rabid congressmen, the war hawks, is President Madison declaring war against Britain, then sending American military forces off to invade Canada. Now, is it just me, or does attacking the guys in caves and woods up north seem like a very roundabout way of going to war with Britain?
It's just you.
No, it isn't. Shouldn't we?
Not at all. You know, for years, these British tyrannyists have been using Canada as a base for their training camps and as a launch point for attacks into the United States. This is how they took Fort Detroit and Fort Mackinac, and if we want domestic security, we need to bomb the British out of Canada. These British tyrannyists have pushed us around on the sea for years, flouting international laws. It's time America sent a strong message.
But is the American military even ready?
And then tell them, pass it on to Lower Canada. Invade Prince Edward Island and capture Prince Edward. Take the king out of Kingston, the queen out of Queenston, and the land out of England.
Coming up, Uncle Sam gets hungry for land, and it makes the natives restless. The War of 1812 was a hard sell for both sides. Americans were told that it was a fight for sovereignty at sea, but back on land, it was also a chance to get some primo real estate. I mean, both sides were itching to grab more of North America. And the Indians, who were already living there, had to choose sides.
Who will be speaking to us by satellite?
Hi, Annie. Paul.
General Harrison, America entered this war with a sense of optimism. Some say we were overly optimistic. In fact,
overly optimistic? Not at all. I mean, who knows how it will end? An American victory or a resounding, overwhelming, total victory for us? America has won every war it's fought, which so far was just the one war. But if we'd lost that, then we wouldn't be America. We'd be British, which would be okay because the British seem to be winning this one, and then well, we'd be on the winning side again.
General, we've already lost Fort Detroit and Fort Mackinac, two strategic locations. Sir, is it fair to say that the U.S. military was totally unprepared for this war?
No, not fair at all. Not fair at all. Accurate, yes, accurate, but not fair. But the thing is this, war is changing. It's now small, mobile forces like those that hit Washington. They sail in, they hit hard, and they get out again. Instead of risking soldiers by direct confrontation, we're sending in Indians.
As have the British.
Yes, the so-called stealth fighter. They cross into the U.S. without being detected by our observers. They travel the woods rather than on the roads. It's a smart weapon.
Okay, let's talk about the native issue. We all saw disturbing footage of Indians celebrating when they heard the news of Washington being burned. Mr. Rimskaka, let's go to you. Why the resentment? Why do your people hate the United States so much? Why side with the British to fight against America, home of the brave and land of the slave-owning free?
Because white America betrayed us first, with its thievery and lies. There can be no peaceful coexistence between the Indian and the white man in your country.
Well, certainly not with that attitude.
As far as we are concerned, all the United States has ever done is try to impose its standards, its values on our people. You have no respect for our native ways and religion.
Now that is nonsense. In fact, our missionaries have worked hard to give you ignorant savages cultural religion.
This is exactly the kind of attitude I'm talking about. The problem with the United States...
You don't like America, then why did you come here, huh?
All you soldiers, come to attention. Strap on your rifle and whip out your blades. It's time to get bayoneting to the oldies. When things get hot and heavy on the battlefield, you don't have time to pound your powder and blow your balls. You gotta get up close and personal and give it to those soldiers. Hard. Well, now you can with bayoneting to the oldies.
The British look at our American way of life and you are jealous.
Well, you're suggesting King George wants to live like an American?
Not the king.
Because I can assure you
the British people, the Cockneys and Yorkies and Welsh and other rival ethnic groups, plus their worldwide network in India and Africa, their network known as Empire, is everywhere.
Our Empire network has been in place for years. I'm not saying the British government is perfect.
Well, good, because
but at least
it's
we have a tradition. We have a tradition of freedom of expression.
Yes, okay, your troops burned down our Library of Congress in Washington. They really freed a lot of expression there, didn't they?
Let me put it straight.
Prove my point.
Please.
This chart shows the world network controlled by King George and his ministers. Now, can you look at this chart and deny that your nation's embroiled in a massive world network of tyranny?
It's an empire.
Potato, patata, you know.
An empire of tyranny, then.
This chart isn't even accurate.
Oh, no?
The East India Company is a private company. It is not controlled by
Private.
King George.
Okay, private company.
my friend,
What kind
because-
of private company has its own army?
Yeah.
They are dealers in tea.
Oh, tea, is that what they're calling it?
And financed by drug sales to China?
I have no knowledge of any highly profitable but illegal opium sales to China, and I will stand by that until further instructed by Home Office. And if I can...
How was your day?
Oh, just a great day there, Edith. I ran into Jefferson on the way home.
Thomas Jefferson?
You old zingbat, our old slave Jefferson. I'll tell you the nerve of them coloreds, too, you know? Jefferson seen me coming, and he don't even move. He just stands right there on the sidewalk.
But Archie, what did you think he was gonna do?
Well, jump into the gutter, Edith, where he belongs. Now go get me a beer. I'll tell you the nerve of that guy. Not only do I gotta walk around him, well, he don't even doff his cap in respect for a white man.
He doesn't have to. New York passed a law against slavery.
Michael's right, Daddy. Mr. Jefferson is free now.
Oh, free? Well, he sure ain't free when I bought him, little girl.
Well, maybe you should have treated Jefferson better when you owned him.
Hey, jeez, don't give me that. I never heard him complain.
Oh, right, yeah. I guess it's hard to hear a guy when you're whipping him.
Hey, come on now. Jefferson had it coming. He was the laziest slave in New York there.
Oh, Archie. God doesn't like it when you talk mean about the doggies.
Baloney. If anybody approves of slavery, it's God.
What? I can't believe you said that!
Hey, listen up, meathead. The Bible's full of slaves.
It's also full of locusts.
Now, with her husband away at the army, Shirley has to run their small farm. Shirley, you have a few slaves, but you have difficulty disciplining them. Is that right?
Well, they're real great slaves, but they don't work very hard, and they're always complaining that they're sick, and even when they're not sick, they work slower than molasses. If things keep up, cotton ain't gonna get picked this year.
Shirley, we teach people how to behave around us, and slaves are like people. Shirley, you are a woman who's grown up with slaves all her life. Now, do you want to have to work those fields yourself? You might just have to if you don't get them going. Heck, you might end up having to sell your whole farm. Now, is that what you want? That's why you either use it or you're going to lose it.
Oh, Dr. Pill, I can't beat them. Those slaves are like family. Actually, knowing my husband, some of the young ones probably are family.
So take the whip.
I don't know.
Take it, Shirley.
Coming up, the spoils of war go to the winner, assuming there is a winner. The War of 1812 was a conflict filled with missed opportunities, delayed communications, and general bungling. A war where civilian armies were not all that keen to be involved. The battlefields were farmers' fields, and many people on both sides would rather have been harvesting their crops than shooting at their neighbors. Unfortunately, this was war, and the only one doing any harvesting was the Grim Reaper.
General Harrison, why is it that the people responsible for pushing America into this war, the congressmen known as the War Hawks, why are they all from western frontier states like Kentucky?
The War Hawks represent concerned America.
It's partisan politics. The war on tyranny is becoming pork barrel.
Everyone who opposes British tyranny from New England...
Sir, I'm from New England. When the British started seizing ships and seamen, it affected us on the coast far more than you in Indiana.
Haven't you heard of prairie schooners?
But people in New England don't want war and didn't push for it.
The American people are united against tyranny. I get
Sir,
letters almost every other month.
The only Americans who want this war are men with a vested interest in pushing my people even farther west west and taking our land.
Well, we have to take the Indians' land because they're fighting for the British.
We are now, but you started taking our land hundreds of years ago.
That was a preemptive strike.
In exchange for helping the British defend their land, they've agreed to help us create a separate native state, a homeland for our people.
Sorry, Rumseca, we already have an Indiana, and it's taken.
Or it will be once we clear out all the Indians.
The British don't support you. They're only on your side because they're short of men. They need someone to do the grunt work for the fur trade. If they could teach Scotsmen to trap beaver, why, you'd be history.
Daddy, slavery is wrong.
Only north of the Mason-Dixon line.
No, you're wrong there, Arch. It's not just the northern states. The whole world is turning against slavery. Britain banned the slave trade.
Oh, just another good reason for us to be at war with them.
Oh, come on, Arch, face it. Sooner or later, the Negroes are going to have equal rights.
Oh, geez, what's next? The vote for women?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. In America, all men are created equal. That means white men, red men, and black men.
Oh, geez, hey, call a doctor there, will you? Yeah, to me, that ear's gone colorblind.
Hang on, Archie. Just as soon as I finish rolling your cigar.
Geez, you hear that there, boy? It's taking twice as long to get things done. I tell you, if they ever ban slavery, they better legalize polygamy.
Thanks, Connie. What's on tap for Connie Chung tonight?
Tonight, we look at why American men aren't living as long as they used to. Could the war be responsible?
Gee, I thought that'd have been a foregone conclusion, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I apologize. My staff should have had a scripted answer for me to read.
Thanks, Connie.
And now it's time for you, the viewer, to fire back with your comments. Our first message comes to us from Steve in Boston. Steve writes, "The tragedy of this war is that it was unnecessary. 2 days before America declared war, the British repealed their policy of blockading and seizing Yankee clippers, the very reason we went with the war. Of course, it took weeks for word to reach America by Yankee clipper, and by then, the musket balls were flying." Excellent point, except that seizing ships and seamen isn't the reason we're at war, it's the excuse.
Well, all I can say is we won't let that kind of mistake happen again.
I agree.
Alas, it did happen again. The War of 1812, plagued by communication problems, ended with the Battle of New Orleans, a dramatic victory for the Americans. Too bad it was fought a week after the truce was signed in London. In the end, things returned to the status quo. The Canadian-American border was redrawn exactly where it was before the war. They say 1812 was a war no one won, but no one lost, unless it was the Indians who lost any hope of establishing a separate nation. For them, and for those who died in that unresolved war, history bites.
They say an army travels on its stomach. British troops may be traveling fast without fasting. Meet the tin canister, or tin can for short, or can for even shorter. American experts discovered a can of food takes several hours to open. Should the British someday develop a can opener, they may very well become unstoppable, and our troops will kick the can. For this is a weapon of mass consumption.